You deserved everything you got. This is a union city.
That is a Philadelphia tradition.
Seize the means of podcasting.
Oh God, the bosses crushed us.
Let me tell you one thing else.
In oldie-timey times,
Who said it? Kanye West or Thomas
we
Paine?
will not raw dog reality for that one.
The pleasure of the flesh is in solidarity.
The Scab Buster.
It's gonna be wholly unprofessional.
Eight together strong. Let that be your mantra.
Today, we're gonna learn about...
So we have a somewhat Christmassy episode for everybody. We're going to be learning about Maggie Kuhn and the Gray Panthers.
I have nothing.
Yeah?
I have nothing. I have nothing to work with here.
Okay. So this will be a little bit of a biography of who Maggie Kuhn was. It was originally going to be about one of the kind of protest actions that the Gray Panthers got into. But the more I learned about Maggie Kuhn, the more obsessed with her I got.
Okay.
So you're just going to learn about her now.
All right.
I guess I should start with saying the Gray Panthers are a elder rights activist group.
Elder rights.
Yes.
Gray Panther. All right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So we're going to get into their founder, Maggie Kuhn, who lived in Germantown for a while. So she was born in her grandmother's home, which we'll get into why that's important later, in Buffalo, New York in 1905, to a middle-class white family from Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay.
So her mother was originally from New York, and most of her mother's family still lived around there. And her mother had moved down south when she got married, and she absolutely hated it, and despised Jim Crow, hated what life in early 1900s Memphis was. She was known for sharing meals with her black domestic servants, and she would actually invite them to sit down and eat with the whole family in the dining room.
Okay.
Which, wasn't necessarily revolutionary.
But I mean...
White families in the South did not do that.
Yes, baby steps.
Every summer, they would go back up to Buffalo to visit her grandmother and the whole other maternal side of the family. So then, and this is where Maggie, got radicalized. Mostly by her widow aunt, whose husband died in a railway accident. And the railway company, I think, blamed the conductor of the train rather than taking any responsibility themselves.
Uh-huh.
So they said, oh, we're not going to pay for your funeral charges, or fuck you. And so she was widowed and poor.
Nice.
She had to pay for her funeral.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm loving this.
Yeah. So
great story so far.
A great way to treat people. So that was her Aunt Paulina. And basically Paulina taught her to never trust anyone in a position of power, and to basically just stand up for yourself.
Everybody needs a pissed off aunt growing up.
It's true.
It doesn't matter what she's pissed off about.
Yeah.
But you need that.
Maggie then attended the Flora Stone Mather College of Western Reserve University.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's a name.
Oh my God. I'm thinking about their pennants.
Yeah.
Jesus, this is 8 feet long.
It's the FSMC of Western Art.
I don't think that'll make it any better.
Yeah. So that name in Cleveland. And so she was already kind of radical, coming from having a crazy aunt.
Uh-huh.
Her sociology professor there.
Oh God. She's thinking sociology.
He basically, he would take the whole class on field trips to go to the city jail. Then he also just walked them through the slums of Cleveland.
Wow.
And
they probably learned more in that day than they have in a whole semester at school.
Yeah. And brought them into sweatshops to look at labor conditions.
They just let a field trip go right through the sweatshop?
Yeah. It was the 1920s. You could, there was
there was a sweatshop in every corner, too.
Yeah, Yeah. So, so they went through sweatshops, and Maggie, already coming from like a pretty radical background, by the end of this was just like, okay, it's time to just start burning stuff. So
there was only one trajectory for Maggie in this story.
So she organized a chapter of the League of Women Voters, which was originally a suffragist movement. They had shifted their focus from advocating for suffrage to basically trying to teach especially young women how to be independent voters.
Oh, okay.
Because
they got the right to vote now.
Yeah.
So
and there was like this counter movement of, you have the right to vote, but you should just vote how your husband tells you.
Yeah, okay.
And so they were pushing back against that. So then after college, she was basically, like, not surprisingly, coming out with a liberal arts degree. There wasn't a huge amount of job opportunities. Yeah. So she started working with the Young Women Christians of America, the YWCA.
Okay.
Like most liberal arts graduates today, she went to work for a nonprofit, making like no money. And like,
but
today,
she felt good about it.
Yeah. And like today, I mean, the YWCA was claimed to be very progressive, but like the only people that could actually afford to work there came from upper middle class backgrounds because they didn't pay anything, or they barely paid anything. So there she started working with women in the labor movement, started teaching women how to organize unions. And then they would also provide housing and nurseries to unwed nursing and working mothers. She was getting even further radicalized in the YWCA. And then in the 30s, she was doing more classes. And she started teaching classes on female sexuality, taught classes on birth control, specifically taught classes on like home economics as a single woman and how to survive as a single woman. Then she also would order free samples from cosmetics companies and then use that sample as a way to talk about how the cosmetics industry has commodified female beauty, and then talk about the labor practices in cosmetics production.
Wow.
Yeah. So she was pretty cool.
She is firing on all cylinders here.
She took a position at the Germantown, Philly YWCA, and worked there until 1947. Then she left for 2 years, or like a year and a half, 2 years, to work for the General Alliance of Unitarian Women in Boston, and then came back to her senses and came back to Philly because we're a better city.
Okay. Right. Gabe, you said it, I did.
Oh, yeah. Then we're going to skip ahead because basically she worked at the Germantown Philly YWCA and continued to educate women on like, hey, this is how reproduction works, and maybe you should know that.
This is the way we do it up in Boston.
This is now, which would have been 65,
1953.
Later. This is like 1969.
It's 1960. Oh my, 69.
Yeah, so we're skipping ahead a while.
Wow. Okay.
And so somewhere in there, I forget when.
Covering a lot of ground.
She started working for the Presbyterian Church in New York. And I just have to read this quote from her biography. It's about SEPTA and public transportation and Amtrak.
Okay.
And it's just fantastic. So am
I going to have to burn my bus tokens now?
No.
After you say
it's
this?
a good thing.
Okay.
So at like 64 years old, this was her daily routine every morning. She was out the door at 7:15 a.m., invariably, and this is her quote, invariably I found myself running, in bad weather, slipping and sliding, down the hill to the Upsall train station with my coat unbuttoned and my hair not yet combed into a bun. I had an uncanny knack for arriving just as the train was pulling in. The Chestnut Hill West Line dropped me off in North Philadelphia. Amtrak's 810 train stopped there to pick up about 20 of us who made the pilgrimage to New York. At Pennsylvania Station, I rushed to the 7th Avenue Express subway, which took me to 96th Street, where I jumped on an uptown local to 116th Street. From there, I walked the 4 blocks to the Interchurch Center at 120th Street, where most days I reached my office on the 8th floor promptly at 9:45 a.m. So she was crazy.
And let me tell you one thing else.
Yeah.
Because is that not Bernie Sanders running to catch a plane, you know? Wow.
Honestly, Bernie probably met her at some point.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah. They probably got arrested together at one of the protests in the 60s. Anyway, so that was her, like, daily routine. So she was a trooper. But in its infinite wisdom, the Presbyterian Church had a strict retirement policy where at 65 you were kicked out the door. She was basically forced into retirement or let go.
This woman can't catch a break.
And it was 4 months before her 65th birthday. And
could at least waited till after the birthday.
Yeah. So understandably, she was really pissed off. And rather than burning the building down, organized the Consultation of Older Persons.
The Coop?
The Coop.
The Coop.
So they started it out of a broom closet in a tabernacle church in West Philly.
Wow.
Which is also like, that's the most West Philly thing. So, the Consultation of Older Persons.
The Coop.
The Coop. It grew pretty quickly. Because there were a bunch of people getting forced into retirement in the early 70s. They started to organize and work together to advocate for an end to the Vietnam War.
Oh. The first thing they did was stop the Vietnam War.
Yep.
The coup.
Yep. They fought.
God bless them.
They protested against the military-industrial complex. And then
out of a broom closet.
Yep. Then fought for old age protections.
Why wasn't that the first thing they went after?
I mean, it probably was, but I wrote this quickly. So they were gaining some notoriety, and then they got interviewed. Maggie Kuhn got interviewed, and she was like explaining what the whole organization was before everything. And the interviewer asked her, "So what do you want us to call you?" And she said, "We're the Consultation of Older Persons." And the reporter said, "That's a fucking awful name. You're the Gray Panthers."
Really?
Yep, that's how they got the name.
You couldn't come up with Coop? Like me?
No.
I'm just not made out for television, I guess.
Apparently not. It's in 1976. It's like early December. And it's really fucking cold. John Wanamaker's...
Gabe's had a lot to drink.
I have. John Wanamaker's department store has decided that on Christmas Eve, that's the perfect time to fire every single retail employee over the age of 65. The Gray Panthers found out about that.
Oh. No.
And the Gray Panthers from Philly, Willingsboro, and the South Jersey branch all showed up out front of John Wanamaker's in Central Philly and handed out pink slips to customers as they left the store. Each one had the story of Scrooge reincarnated, talking about the Wanamaker department store.
Okay.
So, through activism like this, the Gray Panthers, and admittedly lots of other organizations that work together with them, brought an end to age-based retirement for most workers in 1986, finally brought an end to then also for tenured professors in 1993. Then the interesting thing is that all of those policies exclude people in policy setting positions. So if you're an executive at a company, you can be fired at 65, but the frontline workers can't be.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so that unfortunately, Maggie Kuhn died.
Forced into retirement.
Yes, life forced Maggie Kuhn into retirement. Passed in 95.
95. How old was she?
90.
90.
Or 89.
She was 90.
Yeah,
we'll give her another year.
She got fired 4 months before her birthday, so
yeah,
we're adding an extra 4 months on.
So okay.
Yeah, so that was Maggie Kuhn and the Gray Panthers, and we're recording a mile away from her house.
Really?
Because or a little over a mile. About a mile and a half.
So that can be one of the stops on the Maggie tour that we're going to do.
Well, we have to start at her house and then walk down to the Upsall train station and try to get to New York.
Okay.
And then day drink around New York and then try and get back and see how that goes.